The church and the political community are autonomous and independent in their own fields, while being both devoted to the social and personal vocation of the same individuals. Nearly 70% of the masses do not think pastors should endorse politicians from the pulpit. Some persons feel that Christianity offers a moral framework that is directly relevant to policy issues, and thus the pastors should speak to politics. At other times, the feeling is made that religion and politics should be kept separate, and thus pastors should preach the word rather than be political pundits. Many people think that Christians should keep their Christianity out of the political arena, but this is neither possible nor desirable. No person, whether Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, or atheist, can keep their religion from radiating outward into their public life. It's not that they should not, they literally can't. Pastors have a broad range of responsibilities, but they do not need to be well versed in politics in order to faithfully fulfill their calling. It is understandable that leaders of churches may feel the urge to lend their influence to the fray by endorsing a particular candidate. Some may even consider it a moral imperative. It is, after all, part of a religious leader's function to help the member of their congregation flourish within the society in which they live. And an important part of doing so is helping that congregation to shape society to the extent it is able. Some might desire the input of the church regarding who might be the best candidate. The church, by reason of her role and competence, is not identified in any way with the political community, nor bound to any political system. She is at once a sign and a safeguard of the transcendent character of the human.
When you're talking about a cleric, you're talking about a leader of a religious group. And within the polis, you have different kinds of people. For instance, the Bible says you pray for leaders and all those who are in authority. It is not only Christians that are in authority. When the righteous rule, the people rejoice. But what kind of righteousness? It's not a righteousness that makes us, born again and Christians, but it is a righteousness of doing things right within society. For instance, if you are a Christian and you're committing fraud, and a Muslim is doing right, the Muslim who is doing right within the society will be commended. But if you're a Christian and you're doing right, and the atheist who is supposed to do right is not doing right, then the society will frown at such a person. So there are laws and operations or principles and policies within the social milieu that guides whatever we do. So when a cleric endorses a particular person, you are saying all others have not been endorsed by you. So even if they come to maybe to win an election tomorrow, you that is supposed to be a father of all have failed in your position or responsibility by such endorsement. So what you do when somebody comes around is to offer counsel and prayers. What kind of counsel? Counsel for good governance, counsel for justice, counsel for using resources at their disposal to do the needful within society, counsel for making sure that people don't groan and cry when they are in leadership, when they are in position of governance. That is the kind of counsel you should offer. And then prayers. What kind of prayers? Prayers of goodwill. Prayers that the best man should emerge. Prayer that whoever is going to bring such order and goodness into society should be thrown up. Because if such a person that is not thrown up within the governance apparatus, at the end of the day, they'll be groaning. The economy will suffer. Social justice will suffer. All kinds of things that will make for progress, all the indices and parameters of progress will go down. And this is not what a cleric wants to see. So what he wants to see is that justice reigns, righteousness reigns, ethics, morality, all of these things are going to bring, goodness in the economy, in politics, in the religious order is in place.
The challenge oftentimes is that increasingly the institutions of faith, churches and mosques, are now being politicized. Religion on its own has no challenge. It is oftentimes the politicization, the misuse, or the misdirection of institutions of faith, for narrow political interest. That's what the issue is. You see some clergymen now more active on the political space, in the partisan political space, than even the politicians themselves. It does not speak well. First of all, it creates confusion in the minds of the adherents or the followers of that faith, or of the members of the church or mosque at the case may be. That confusion can be avoided and should be avoided. Secondly, what's the purpose? Are you endorsing or supporting the candidate because he's giving you money, because you hope to get some curry some favors when he gets to office? Or are you doing it for the overall or the larger interest of good governance? Oftentimes it's the former, not the latter. People are doing it for their peevish pecuniary interest and not for altruistic purposes. They are not interested. Oftentimes I think clergymen are not even like the worst of among the politicians. They are doing it just to curry their personal favors. You see, living larger than life. Clergymen are supposed to be, sedate, who are supposed to be not too interested in material things, are the ones who are most outlandish in their display of wealth. So I think it's the purpose more than any other thing that determines. If they are doing it, if they are look at the two candidates. This one has a track record of delivering of public goods, of delivering of services, of making life better and more meaningful for people. The other one is a known corrupt person, somebody who has embezzled and mismanaged our public resources. On the basis of those eclectic, standards, you can say, okay, we are endorsing this because it will be better for the people. But if it's for the peevish or pecuniary or, and in partisan interest of the clergyman, I think it's something that one ought to avoid.
The church should have true freedom to preach the faith, to teach her social doctrine, to exercise her role freely among men, and also to pass moral judgments in those matters which regard public order when the fundamental rights of a person or the salvation of souls require it. Religious leaders can speak their mind and endorse candidates as long as they aren't doing it as an official representative of the church, that is, church publications or at official church functions. When speaking or writing their opinion on political issues outside of the church, church leaders are urged to indicate that those are their personal viewpoints and not the views of the religious organizations they represent. Politicians and political organizations are also looking for ways to get their message in front of as many people as possible. Churches with their reliable audiences and shared values can be seen as attractive venues for promoting causes and candidates, but getting too involved with politics can risk a church status as a tax-exempt non-profit. Before hosting a political speaker, it's important for church leaders to understand the risks.
As the issues implies that clergy are encouraging people to go into politics, because the Bible says when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. You see, especially Nigerian politics, where people will say clergy should not involve or practice politics. But thank God for this dispensation that we are seeing a lot of clergy coming out. Pastors are coming out to contest for an elective position, like the position of a president, position of governorship, and it gives we joy that Christians are coming out. And as a clergy, I'm also encouraging believers to go into this elective position, because if we leave it for people that are in the street, you see, they will rule us they will rule the people without the fear of God. But when believers are in authority, they will have the fear of God. They will know what the masses are lacking. They will know what the people of God are lacking, because they will not just say, I go there, and they don't affect the public, because they has the fear of God. They are nurtured, they are leader, they have practiced leadership in the fear of God. That is why I encourage Christians to go into politics. And two, We should also, these believers should also have somebody in mind who they have tested, who they have also trusted, who they know that he has the fear of God, to contest for such position, like president.
When you tend to always advertise, permit me to use that word, in the church, maybe talking about a particular political party, is not too good, because it will send a wrong signal, being that you have a lot of people who are involved in different political parties. But when it comes to the aspect of choosing your own candidate, as a Nigerian and as somebody who also encourage your congregation to vote, you also have the right to also vote. But the way it is that if you are portraying or maybe trying to encourage anybody in terms of saying that this is your own candidate, it's not something that you should push as others are pushing it. If not, you end up dividing the congregation that God has given to you to pastor. So it's something that have to be done with wisdom. So it's not a wrong idea, but depending on how you handle it, because you need to use wisdom, being that you are a leader to so many people. So that is one of the ways that it should go.
God has always recommended leaders. For example, David was anointed a king. We have King Solomon and the rest of them. And the Bible has a record that these people feared God, and God gave them wisdom to rule their kingdom, and they really excelled. So coming from that background, I think that there is not out of place entirely for a clergy to endorse a political candidate who is vying for any political position. But coming to Nigeria, the real problem we have is this idea of people thinking that political positions are for people that are very, very dirty, quote and unquote. Dirty in the sense that they don't fear God, they don't have the fear of God. But right from the beginning, it was not so. Originally, God created people, leaders, to lead their people in a godly way. I'm not here to quote the Bible, but I know that God supports that there should be leaders. And that's why you see all the time we are asked to pray for our leaders. So a clergy appointing somebody to run a political position in an ideal environment is not a bad idea, because it is expected that a clergy would have developed some confidence in that candidate, probably maybe a Christian, somebody of the same faith. And if he decides to sponsor somebody of the same faith or endorse the person, it's like beating his chest to say, yes, I know this person, he can deliver. But the unfortunate thing in the Nigerian situation is that when they get there, even as believers, they turn, it's like there's something that just possesses them, and that confidence is no more there. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, because they don't fear God, they don't deal with the people in a godly manner. That is why it looks as if, it's not for believers, it's not for Christians. So I really don't see anything wrong in doing so. And not until the people that fear God take over the leadership of this country, I don't think we're ever going to get it right. Because the Bible makes us understand that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
If a church is determined to have speeches that are related to a campaign, it may, but there are certain conditions that needs to be understood. For example, if the church holds one candidate for such a speech, they must take care to do so in a manner that avoids partisan favoritism by treating other candidates, from the various political parties the same. A church may also have a single candidate speak, so long as the speech is not related to that candidate's campaign for office and no fundraising is done for the candidate. Nor may other people, such as a church member who introduces the candidates, make any sort of recommendation that people in the audience vote for the candidate or offer any other form of explicit support for the candidate. A church may also have a single candidate speak, so long as the speech is not related to that candidate's campaign for office and no fundraising is done for the candidate. Nor may other people, such as a church member who introduces the candidate, make any sort of recommendation that people in the audience vote for the candidate or offer any other form of explicit support for the candidate.
That you are committing something to something else, for which it is not meant for, does not mean that thing will not be amenable to your use. But at the end of the day, what is playing out is what we call abuse. So the church is a place of worship. The church is a place of enlightenment. It's a place of education. It's a place of knowledge. What kind of knowledge? The knowledge of God. And God is a God of justice. He is not biased. So when you use the church as a campaign ground for politicians and politics, you are commercializing the church. You are abusing the church. And that was what happened in the temple when they were using the temple for economics and for trade. And Jesus had to take the whip and drive them out. He said, my Father's house is not meant to be a house of trade. It's supposed to be a house of prayers to all nations. All nations. Mark that word, all nations, not some nations. So it is not a place for tribalism. It's not a place for sectionalism. It's not a place for nepotism. It's not a place for abuse. It is a place for worship, a place for prayers, a place for praise. Nobody is saying that you cannot allow church members to go for political gatherings. They can go for political gatherings, but not using the church, the pulpit, for politics. That's not what it's meant for. That's abuse.
There should be a platform that allows for the interrogation of aspirants or indeed candidates. So then come and tell the people in a spiritual field environment what it is, they are, why they want the people to support them for office, why they want people to vote them into office. They need to come and tell people. And I think the place of worship is one very good position where you can do that. Because indeed, if the clergy is up and doing in terms of holding the high moral standards, holding people in office accountable, you can hold them accountable on the basis of what they said when they came to that church or mosque, what they said in the house of God, quote and unquote.
I believe that I will not go and endorse somebody as a clergy who does not have the fear of God, who does not have the feelings of the people at heart to endorse such person to rule us. But those who have the fear of God is the person. I have a particular candidate that I can endorse for such political position. Because those, especially those that has the fear of God, not somebody you will put here, people will not be lamenting, oh, why do we vote in such person, that whereby our life are not secured as believer, whereby people's life in the public are not secure, when there is no security, there is economic hardship biting hard on people. But people who we have the conscience, who we have the fear of God, these are the people who are in this 2023 election that we need to endorse, and we need to vote in such people into these elected positions.
Any of the parties that are coming, or any of the candidates that are coming to the church to talk to the people, our doors should be open to them. Because first of all, the church is a part of the country. The church is to also give an opportunity to people, because you become a father to so many of them. So if they come, first of all, allow them to talk, whether they are from any of the political parties, then also pray for them. But on your own is something that have to do with you interceding on behalf of the state, on behalf of the country, asking God to give us the best. Because if you actually look at the situation of this country now, no pastor, I repeat, no pastor should just stay and said, oh, let me just relax, it does not concern me. No. Because it is when the country is at peace that you can even pastor the church well. It is when the leaders are good that you discover that even the church will also move forward.
It's not morally right. You know why I say so? Because, you see, I see them as Casanovas, in the sense that they know deep in their hearts that they are not going there, to represent the people they are asking to vote for them. And I see it as a sin, because promise and fail is a sin, we all know. So going to the church is like making jest of Christianity. They know deep in them that they are not going there with the fear of God. Because if any leader goes into that position with the fear of God, he will rule the people well. He will make policies that will be good for the people. Do you understand? Yes, he will make sure that he represents his people here well. But what we see in Nigeria is they just go to nooks and corner, they get their votes, and when they get there, the people to hell with them, which is very, very wrong.
Though the church generally encourages members to be informed and engaged politically, it leaves each person to decide for himself or herself which people and ideas best represent his or her views. The church is neutral regarding political parties, political platforms, and candidates for political office. The church does not endorse any political party or candidate, nor does it advise members how to vote. The church does, however, reserve the right to speak out on moral issues or other issues that significantly affect the church and its members, including matters related to family, marriages, and religious freedom. Caroline Okonji on Special Reports.